Well, thank you again for joining the More Than Money podcast. If you're listening to this just via audio, the reason why I'm thanking you again is because we are starting to take these clips and put them on YouTube so people can actually watch them. And so if I just simply threw this clip up there and didn't welcome them to the More Than Money podcast, they'd have no idea what they're listening to or who they're listening to. And so, anyway, that's why I went ahead and greeted you again. And so, you may hear me doing that a little bit more. It's all for the YouTube videos. Well, as I mentioned before, we have 4 listener questions. And if you have a money question, you can easily get it to us by going to ChristianMoneySolutions.com. Click on that show tab right up at the top. And then you'll see on that page a form that says ask a money question. You fill out that form, you click submit, boom, you're done. That's all that you have to do. And Linda did just that. And she sent us this question. She wrote, I have a question. I recently found out that I am going to have another child. It would be our second child. I currently have a 2018 Honda Accord that has a little over 100,000 miles. It's running fine, but with our second child on the way, I really want some type of SUV. We are currently on Money Milestone 6, and we have about $7,000 saved for another car. What do you think about pausing our retirement savings so that we can save more money and get an SUV before I have the baby? We have about 6 months until the baby is due. Linda, hey, congratulations. This is incredible news. I love it. I love that you are having your second child. That's amazing. And from a financial standpoint, congratulations on being a Money Milestone 6. That's a big deal. Money Milestone 6 is to set aside 15% of your gross income. That means that Linda has knocked out all of her debt. It means that she has an emergency fund, and now she is saving for retirement, setting aside, once again, 15% of her gross income toward retirement. So, Linda, that is incredible. So, great job. Way to continue to follow those money milestones. Oh, and congratulations, I think, for setting up a sinking fund. You said that you had $7,000 set aside for a car already. I'm going to assume that you have been listening to the More Than Money podcast, and you know that you should set up a sinking fund, setting aside a little bit of money every single month into a fund to save up for that car so that you can then buy it with cash. So I'm going to assume that that's what you have. If so, congratulations. You're crushing it. Now, I want to acknowledge that there's a few pieces of information that I am missing. First of all, I don't know how much you're setting aside every single month for your car. You have $7,000 already saved. That's awesome. But I don't know, are you setting aside 500, $1,000, maybe 250. I don't know. I don't know how much you're wanting to spend on that SUV, which is it's a pretty important part of the equation here. And I don't know how close you are to that 15% mark. So I am missing some pieces of information here, but my short answer is no. I would not pause your retirement savings. Now, why in the world would I say that? It's not because I'm against SUVs. And we have an SUV. We have a regular sedan and we have an SUV. So why would I say that I don't think that you should pause it? Well, one of the best financial gifts. So you have 2 children now. So one of the best financial gifts that you can give your child is a financially healthy you, which means that you need to make sure that you're setting aside money for the time when you will no longer work for income. That's what we call retirement. And so you need to make sure that you're taking care of your finances first. That is a gift. I want you to think about that as a gift that you are giving to your children, because if you don't take care of yourself financially, then as you get older, they will likely need to take care of you. And I know that you don't necessarily want that for them. You don't want them to have that financial burden. And so you want to be able to take care of your finances first. It's like going on an airplane, right? And you hear the attendant say, "Hey, when the oxygen masks drop, put your mask on first before taking care of those around you." Why do they say that? Well, because if you don't do that, then you're going to pass out, and a passed out you is, makes the situation that much worse. You're not going to be able to help any of those around you. So I want you to make sure that you are taking care of you. You also already have a good, safe, reliable car. You have a Honda Accord. It's not that old. You said you had about 100,000 miles on it. That's not that many miles for a Honda Accord. And so it's not like you have this awful car that is very unsafe. I mean, you're looking at a 2018 Honda Accord. That's going to be a safe car for you and your kids. Once again, I'm not anti SUV. I'm not saying you shouldn't get an SUV, but I'm just saying I think you have a little bit more time because you're not in a desperate need for some type of really safe car. You already have one. Now, a lot of this will depend on as far as how quickly you can get your SUV, depending on like what your price point is. Like, what type of SUV do you want? So you already have $7,000 saved. You have a 2018 Honda Accord. Let's say that you trade that in, get, I don't know, I'm just going to say $15,000. I don't have any of the numbers right in front of me to know exactly how much that automobile would be worth. But let's say that's $15,000 trade-in plus $7,000. That's $22,000. I'm going to assume that that's probably not enough to get the type of SUV that you're thinking about, because SUVs can be pretty expensive. So you're still going to have to save a little bit. But you know what? It looks like you're on course here. You're doing great. So I would just continue on the path that you're on. You may have to wait maybe a year, maybe a little bit beyond a year before you can purchase that SUV. But I think it's going to be more than worth it, because you're going to be setting aside money for retirement, which you should. And you're doing that for yourself. You're doing it for your kids. You're doing it for the kingdom, so that in your retirement years, those can be some of the most generous years of your life. And so you're gonna keep doing what you're doing, and then purchase the SUV when you are ready to buy it with the cash that you have. But don't put a pause on your retirement. I would not do that. The most important asset that you have when saving for retirement is time. Time in the market. That allows you to really benefit from the power of compounding. And so I want you to jump in as soon as possible and stay in there for as long as possible. So once again, don't pause your retirement savings. But Linda, this is a great question. Hey, you're crushing it. You are. Just hopefully you understand that what you are doing is incredible. Man, Money Milestone 6. That's awesome. So great job. Keep up the great work. And once again, congratulations on the new child. If you have any other questions, of course, let me know. Be sure to reach out to me. The next question comes from Alan. He wrote, "Hey Art, you got an update on the best high yield savings account, so HYSA rates. I'm looking to get one for my emergency fund." Alan, I can give you an update on some high yield savings accounts rates. So I love putting our emergency fund dollars. So emergency fund, that's Money Milestone 5, set aside 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses. I love having that in an emergency fund, really, or I'm sorry, in a high yield savings account, really for two reasons. One, you can actually make a decent amount of interest right now on it. And two, it separates it from the rest of your accounts, because oftentimes with the high yield savings account, you go to a different bank. Now, you don't have to, but most of the time when you're looking for the best rate for a high yield savings account, it's often another bank that you go to, and that's okay. In fact, I think that that's a good thing for your emergency fund, because it creates a little bit of separation. Because what you don't want to do is you don't want to use your emergency fund for non-emergency purposes, right? An emergency fund is for emergencies, right? So you want to make sure that you're only tapping into your emergency fund when there is a legitimate financial emergency, and creating a little bit of space can can be helpful. So going to another bank can be helpful. Okay, so Alan, what are some good rates right now? Well, as of today, now this as of this recording. So if you're listening to this a little bit later, if you're watching this on YouTube a little bit later, I can't guarantee these rates by any stretch of the imagination. But here are some really solid rates out there right now. Brio Bank has an high yield savings account that you can put your emergency fund in at 5.35%. Now, there is a minimum balance requirement of $5,000. This is the only one that I'm going to mention that has a minimum balance requirement. So just be aware of that. Tab Bank has an account at 5.27%. Once again, no minimum balance required there. Genius Bank, and that's spelled with a J, not a G. It has a high yield savings account at 5.25%, no minimum there. Everbank has a high yield savings account at 5.15%, no minimum there. And then finally, BMA Alto has a high yield savings account that is offering a 5.1% rate. Once again, no minimum. All of those banks that I just listed, they're FDIC insured, which that would be my encouragement to you to find a bank that is FDIC insured. My preference, of course, is for you to have a bank account that does not have a minimum balance requirement. But if your emergency fund, which tends to be a little bit higher amount, is above that $5,000 threshold for Brio, then that may be an option for you. But my preference typically is to go with an account that has a no minimum balance requirement. Once again, those rates are subject to change. So, Alan, whenever you're listening to this, or you, the listener, or whoever's watching this, or watching this video, those rates might not be the same now. So you want to go and research those yourself. But Alan, great question. Thank you so much for that. We have 2 more listener questions. We're going to answer those right after this break.